What's up, everybody? Jeff Gatz here. Got a lesson for you today that I think you're going to really enjoy. Today let's talk about a fun and very valuable practice concept that I like to call mirroring. This concept is a lot like another musical concept that you may already be familiar with, which is called call and response. This is essentially when two musicians take turns playing a musical phrase that interacts with one another. So, for example, the first musician may play a melody or a rhythm, then another musician or a group of musicians will then play the same thing or something similar that goes along with what the first musician played. This interplay can go back and forth for a while as the musicians improvise, or it can simply be a one-time thing. Well, you may never have considered it, but this concept can also be applied to the drums. One of the most interesting ways that I think we can apply it is by using our limbs to call back and forth with one another. So, you can do this with any pair of limbs, but I most often do so between my hands and my feet. I think that this is the most natural way to do it, and I also find that it's very effective musically. So first, let's start with an example so I can show you what I mean. Alright, so one of the questions that you may be asking yourself is, what do I do if my feet aren't up to the same ability level as my hands? Well, no worries. There are plenty of cool things that you can still do with mirroring, and simply by playing around with the idea, you'd be surprised by how fast your feet tend to pick up the pace. Cool. Alright, here's another example, except this time we're going to try to play something a little bit more manageable if you're not used to playing with your feet. I hear feels like this, what I'm about to play, all the time, so check this out. This is a great, highly effective fill musically, and it's also a great example of mirroring because your feet are simply copying your hands exactly. In this example, I played 4/16 notes with my hands, I followed those by 4/16 notes with my feet, and then simply repeated that pattern back and forth for the entire fill. Now once you get used to this and can speed it up a little bit, it actually becomes a great fill for hard rock or heavy metal music too. Now, in addition to being fun and a great way to improve your fills, mirroring can also be a great way simply to practice improving your double bass drum technique. I see a lot of people who practice their foot technique by playing long, drawn-out patterns. Although there's nothing wrong with that approach, it can get a little boring at times. So, instead, playing patterns back and forth between your hands and feet is a great way to reduce the monotony and keep you from falling asleep, at least mid-practice session. Alright, for example, say you want to practice your rudiments. Well, why not try playing them with your feet as well? Check this out. I'm going to try this with some Flam taps. You can try to incorporate these into your practice routine as well. Same thing goes for any other rudiment. Once you get used to playing them with your hands and your feet, you can throw them in all over the place, in your fills or just anywhere else in your playing. You don't really have to think too much about what you're playing. Instead, just have fun with the ideas that pop into your head naturally. A lot of the time I like to turn on music, a loop, or a metronome and simply solo over the top, playing any ideas back and forth between my hands and feet as they pop into my head. This is a great way to get comfortable with everything while also letting your own creativity run wild. And ultimately, this approach will also help if you want to use this concept in a live solo in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. Mirroring is a ton of fun to play with, and it's a great way to quickly improve your foot and hand technique at the same time. The possibilities are really endless, so don't be afraid to experiment.